And we left off really at verse 18. Can someone tell me? I'll ask you about three groups of people or people. Can you tell me something that Pharaoh has said, something that the people of Israel have said, and something that God has said in the text that we looked at last week? What did Pharaoh say in his heart? What did the people of Israel say, both in their heart and without? And what did God say? Very clearly. Yeah, this is a big mistake. And what did the people of Israel say? Pretty much the exact same thing. This is all a big mistake. The predator and the prey both think they made a colossal mistake. Isn't that wild? Isn't it?
The answer is yes, it was not a big mistake.
Yeah. And what did God say in response to this? I love this. I love this so much. And Lizzie, I love your comment on this. We are in chapter 14, and specifically I'm talking about verse 15. Why are you crying to me? Get in the van. Someone has to say, just get in the van. Just stop. Just get. We're going someplace. You know? Love this. And I was going to ask you, but I'll just sum it up here. Actions. Okay? Actions. Pharaoh, he regretted, so he pursued the Egyptians. Or pursued the Israelites. Attacked them. The Israelites complained. Okay? What did God do in all of this? Well, as we're going to see, he divides the sea. He leads them across. But also, if we step back, we see that God directed them to this dead end. God moved Pharaoh's heart to pursue the Israelites. By extension, we could say it was in God's will. It's a fair assumption that the Israelites would complain. All of this is orchestrated. To what purpose? The purpose is stated. This is all, we could say, this is all to answer Pharaoh's question that I keep going back to. Who is the Lord God that I should obey his voice? Great question. Now let me spend the next 10 chapters explaining that to you. In fact, let me spend the next couple of millennium explaining that to you. But specifically right here, for God's glory, for his renown, to display to the children of Israel and the people of Egypt and the whole world who he is. So, with that being said, could I get someone to read verses 19 in chapter 14 down through 25?
waters were divided. And the people of Israel went into the midst of the sea on dry ground, the waters being a wall to them on their right hand and on their left. The Egyptians pursued and went in after them into the midst of the sea, all Pharaoh's horses, his chariots, and his horsemen. And in the morning watched the Lord in the pillar of fire and a cloud looked down on the Egyptian forces and threw the Egyptian forces into a panic, clogging their chariot wheels so that they drove heavily. And the Egyptians said, "Let us flee from before Israel, for the Lord fights for them against the Egyptians."
Now they realize that the Lord. How many times have the Egyptians learned this lesson?
Story after story in the Bible, over and over, all the way through the Old Testament, like this.
Yeah.
God throwing things into a turmoil, people being given courage and faith. Just wonderful. How
Yeah.
can you get to the end of the Old Testament and say, I'm together?
What else? What else jumps out to you guys?
I guess I know the answer, but it strikes me a little weird that it's a wind, that it's a mechanism that God uses, because, like, if it's just wind to drive the water back, I'm like, I can't walk across that kind of wind.
Right.
But I guess it's just, I don't know, does anyone understand?
I do.
Feel the confusion, like, okay, I'll get the water out of your way, but you're not going to be able to stand in the wind. But I guess the wind stops in the morning.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. It doesn't need an explanation.
Yeah. And well, also, if you want to go even further, the Egyptians are pursuing the Israelites, right? So pursuing, you're following in the same path that the person you're pursuing is, right? And what does it say? It says that the children of Israel walked out on dry ground. But then back here where the Israelites are, their wheels are getting clogged by mud. Well, the Israelites just trod there. How does that work?
God's snapping his fingers on some things and not snapping his fingers on others. He's using the drying power of the wind, but then, like, it's not effective in the Egyptians.
Now you've keyed in on something that actually Matthew Henry spent quite a bit of time unfolding. Is this combination of what we would call naturally perceived phenomenon, I think was the term that he used, such as wind, mud, different things, but then also his supernatural work. And what Matthew Henry sees in that is he ties that all the way through the 10 plagues. That is this combination of what we would call naturally perceived phenomenon and taken to a supernatural level. And what he says is that he is, in his estimation, and it's just his perception of this, and I tend to agree with him, but I can't like really fully flesh this out, so take it for what it's worth, is he is showing, God is displaying to the people of Egypt and of Israel that I am the God of the natural and the supernatural, and in me there is no distinction. Like, these are my creations, these are my tools, and I will use them as I will. And he even references the Song of Moses, where he says, with God's breath. And so this wind, he's seeing God's breath, and he's also the idea of spirit and breath, and it's all in one, and it's all in the Creator's hands. So yeah, he spends quite a bit of time just going through that. Even the column of smoke and fire he uses to illustrate this. You know, we know smoke, we know fire, and these are God's tools. And yes, Nikki.
God provides the seeds of death.
Mm.
He really does. And doesn't take much to doubt and reject. I mean, if you think this is something, you know, dividing water and things like that, how about a virgin birth? That's pretty easy to doubt,
Yeah.
especially when Mary wasn't providing anything. You know, this is what normally happens, but the Bible tells us they're the seeds of doubt. But the Bible tells us, no, it wasn't that way. The
Mm.
angel came to Mary and told her what was going to happen, and it happened. And so there's God moving the forces of nature for you in a really big way.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that mud clogging the spokes of wheels is not a big way, because it is.
Right.
But the seeds of doubt are there if we want to go that way.
Mm.
Isn't it interesting, though, that we don't?
Yeah.
Or maybe we do for a time.
Side note, interesting thing I read about the Egyptian chariots. The Egyptian chariots would have been commanded by the nobility of Egypt. So basically, we see these 600 chariots rolling out. You're seeing 600 households of Egyptian nobility rolling out. And in each chariot, you have at least an archer and possibly an archer and a javelin thrower. And then you have one or two runners, sprinters, who are carrying, one may be carrying a sword and the other is carrying like extra javelins or arrows. So for 600 horsemen, you may have 3 to 4 times that many troops. And you have all the high muckety mucks of Egypt here. So Egypt is about to be bereft of its ruling classes here, which is interesting. It's almost as if God is providing a way out for the people of Egypt too. You know, he's like, "Hey guys, you're ruled by dirtbags. I'll take care of that." But just a side note. But what I would like to do is you guys know how this ends, I assume. But honestly, this is probably one of the most, what is it, like, it's one of the miracles, like, we all know, like, even the flood. Everybody knows about Noah's flood. Probably everyone's seen some sort of visual depiction of the Israelites crossing the Red Sea. But let's read on, and then I want to jump to Revelation real quick. So, Mickey, could I call on you to read verse 25 through the end of the chapter 14?
Verse 25, Exodus 14.
Yes.
Flogging their chariot wheels, so that they drove heavily. And the Egyptians said, let us flee from before Israel, and for the Lord fight for them against the Egyptians. Then the Lord said to Moses, stretch out your hand over the sea, that the water may come back upon the Egyptians, upon their chariots, and upon their horsemen. So Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the sea returned to its normal course, when the morning appeared. And as the Egyptians fled into it, the Lord threw the Egyptians into the midst of the sea. The waters returned and covered the chariots and the horsemen of all the host of Pharaoh that had followed them into the sea. None of them remained. But the people of Israel walked on dry ground in the sea, the waters being a wall to them on their right hand and on their left. Thus the Lord saved Israel that day from the hand of the Egyptians. And Israel saw the Egyptians dead on the seashore. Israel saw the great power that the Lord used against the Egyptians, and the people feared the Lord, and they believed in the Lord and in his servant Moses.
Wow. Wow. There's really not a whole lot to unpack there because it's pretty well laid out for us. There it is.
Well, but, there are reports that this was really the Reed Sea up every once in a while. I heard this when I was first going into ministry with some liberal commentators, and they're trying to just throw a blanket over this stuff. And it's something that we have to contend with. Because it doesn't say that here.
Yeah, and
Dry ground. And a wall of water here, a wall of water here. How do you turn that into wading through the shallows? I can't.
if we were going to stick simply with extra biblical arguments, so that is outside of the Bible, I would just say to you that the Egyptian army wouldn't be that dumb. They would know where they could run their chariots and where they couldn't. And if the people of Israel crossed through a shallow mud bog, well, the Egyptians would have just gone around and waited for them on the other side. No big deal. You could even split your forces. So just standing there logically, I doubt whether the Egyptian army could have been thwarted by, oh, drat, they went in that deep puddle. Now what do we do? And the Egyptians certainly wouldn't have washed up dead on the shore. They would have just adjusted. And also I'd say, where is the nation of Egypt now? Where are the ancient pharaohs? Where are the people of Israel? Just saying. Today.
Today, well, Israel pretty much got first to the United people, which is kind of a civil organization of rebels, but a big, really big pile of sand.
Yeah. The children of Abraham still exist. The pharaohs are gone. So if I'm just sticking with extra biblical arguments here, we have to say that the evidence is that the people of Israel left. So now the tack they try to take is that the Egyptians were never in Egypt. It's really interesting. If you go to website for the Egyptian Board of Tourism, they waste a lot of space trying to challenge the biblical narrative. And Egypt is not what you think is like their whole slogan. And it's funny. So
Pretty compelling documentary I saw years ago about that kind of links up some things in scripture that places the crossing different than even the Bible maps place it.
oh, really?
And like the documentary showed like coral in the Red Sea that resembles chariot wheels.
Oh, wow.
It shows like Mount Sinai being like protected by the Saudi Arabian government, so it's pretty compelling fit to biblical narrative.
Now, I will say that there is, you did touch on something. The Bible is not 100% clear on exactly where they crossed. So the people who translate it said, well, it's got to be the Red Sea, and they say it was here. It's not, even the ESV will note that it's a little bit debatable, but I didn't really dig into that too much. But it is clear in the biblical narrative that the water was deep enough that it encompassed the Egyptians. And if we are going to believe the Bible, which we should, then we have to take this account as they walked on dry land and the waters consumed the Egyptians. So whether that was here, point A, point B, point C, the point is they didn't cross a somewhat, shallow puddle, and the Egyptians didn't walk through water. You know what I'm saying? But, yes.
In geography, so I'm looking at a map of the Red Sea right now, and it's much wider south than it is up north.
Yeah.
Does the Bible say specifically that they crossed into the Sinai Peninsula, or put it in even further south of that, because it's much wider there?
Documentary says they don't cross into the Sinai Peninsula.
They don't?
I think the Bible said they crossed through Midian, so then you kind of have to weigh
Where was Midian? Right. Because Midian was more of an organization than an area. It was a confederation of tribes that occupied a moving target of areas. Well, he told them to camp between Pi Hahiroth, between Migdal and the sea, in front of Baal Zephon, and you shall encamp facing the sea. So just find those points on your map, and you should be good. Yeah. But let's table that discussion for now, because what I want to do is I want to go to Revelation 15. And I want to read something to you. Because if you remember our study from Revelation, Revelation is a very Jewish book. Revelation is written in a way that someone who was brought up in the Jewish tradition would understand certain themes, and it would resonate with them in a way that was very profound. Does that make sense? It was written, if you could say, he's speaking their lingo. He's tapping into their culture. And because next week, it looks like next week, we're gonna really dig into the Song of Moses. And is that you? That's you. And it is not just conjecture, but the Song of Moses is really seen as more than just a song about the delivery of the people of Israel. The Bible itself interprets the Song of Moses in an interesting way. So, if you remember our study of Revelation, as we go through Revelation, we're seeing the church being persecuted through various trials, various tribulations. And occasionally we get these respites. It's like the camera pans out from what's going on in earth, and we get a view of heaven, of what is going on in heaven. And chapter 15 is one of these almost breaks, these respites, these Sabbaths that we have where we take a breath and we are reassured by what is going on in heaven, which is representative of our status in Christ. And so, tell me if any of this rings true to you. And one of the questions that was asked last week that I wanted to start digging into is, what about this column of fire? What about this column of smoke? Okay? Verse 1 of chapter 15 of Revelation. Then I saw another sign in heaven, great and amazing, seven angels with 7 plagues, which are the last, for with them the wrath of God is finished. And I saw what appeared to be a sea of glass mingled with fire. And also those who had conquered the beast and its image and the number of its name, standing beside the sea of glass with harps of gold in their hands. And they sing the song of Moses, the servant of God, and the song of the Lamb, saying, Great and amazing are your deeds, O Lord God the Almighty. Just and true are your ways, O King of the nations. Who will not fear, O Lord, and glorify your name? For you alone are holy. All nations will come and worship you, for your righteous acts have been revealed. And after this I looked at the sanctuary of the tent of witness in heaven was opened. And out of the sanctuary came the 7 angels with the 7 plagues, clothed in pure bright linen, with golden sashes around their chests. And one of the 4 living creatures gave to the 7 angels 7 golden bowls full of the wrath of God, who lives forever and ever. And the sanctuary was filled with smoke and the glory of God, and from his power, and no one could enter the sanctuary until the 7 plagues of the 7 angels were finished. And so we get a picture of the reality in heaven of what a lot of what we see in Exodus is a picture, is a foretelling. And we're seeing a consistency of character with God displayed in Revelation, because remember, these 7 plagues that are being poured out are judgment on the world that rejects Christ and is persecuting his children. So we see 7 plagues and immediately our heart goes, oh, this is horrible. But this is good and righteous. And this is the righteous God. This is God Jehovah, judging the ungodly and preserving the saints, those who have battled against the beast and rejected the mark. And it ties it directly to the deliverance of the people of Israel. Is there anything else you guys picked up in there you'd like to point out? I sure hope you picked some stuff up out of there. Yes. The power. Yes. Yeah. And did you notice that the Song of Moses is the Song of the Lamb? It makes it very clear in Revelation. This is not me just kind of waxing lyrical and making a connection that is maybe tenuous, or I like the comparison. This is the Song of Moses is the Song of the Lamb. So think on that for a second. What has the Lamb done for you and I? I mean, how much time do we have, right? So the words are slightly different. So it's like a summary of the Song of Moses. But yeah, good point. As we read the Song of Moses, I'll just give you a flavor here. That Moses and the people of Israel sang this song to the Lord, saying, I will sing to the Lord, for he has triumphed gloriously. The horse and his rider has been thrown into the sea. The Lord is my strength and my song. He has become my salvation. This is my God. I will praise him. My father's God. I will exalt him. The Lord, a man of war. The Lord is his name. He goes on to talk about Pharaoh and his chariots and hosts cast into the sea, and his chosen officers were sunk in the Red Sea, the commanders of the chariots. You blew with your wind, the sea covered them, and sank like lead in the mighty waters. Who is like you, O Lord, among the gods? Who is like you, majestic in holiness, awesome in glorious deeds, doing wonders? The people have heard, verse 14. They tremble. Pangs have seized the inhabitants of Philistia. Now the chiefs of Edom are dismayed. Trembling seizes the leaders of Moab. All the inhabitants of Canaan have melted away. And he goes on. So it's a summary of the words of the Song of Moses. And it's also the Song of Moses now in Revelation becomes an idea, a concept, an archetype, if you will. Anything else that jumped out at you?
Well, I think chapter 14, as it ends, pretty sure we're talking Revelation here. I think it's over.
It's over.
Yeah, there's no more people coming to faith. I don't think. Chapter 15 starts with the holes of wrath and continuing.
I believe you're right.
Wrath,
Yeah.
yes, no more salvation. I may be wrong about that, but I think that in some circles is cut off.
I agree with you that. And I think the narrative then goes back to earth and we see the outworking of those 7 plagues. But it also is giving us a picture of our, as you read Revelation, you need to understand that there's a future reality and a present reality, like in the fact that we are secure. We are as good as secure. We are as good as standing on that glassy sea. That is our position in heaven. Now back to earth. And did you guys notice that they're standing on a sea of glass? It's like frozen. All the turmoil down below, fire in there. You almost feel like as you stand there after what we just read, you could squint and see chariot wheels. You know? And what was the role of the fire and the smoke in Revelation? We know in Exodus that they are guides, both day and night. They are protectors surrounding the people. They are a light to guide. Who is this? Who is this? Yeah. It's God. And what is smoke and fire doing in heaven?
You know, what is the sea of glass doing here? Which is it seems to be referred to in many places in the Old Testament.
Yeah.
We hear, for instance, Moses, Joshua, and I think 70 others, maybe running like that. They're having supper on a highway of glass going out
Yeah.
to receive the Ten Commandments, receive the law.
So
you can see through it.
Yep, so clarity, understanding,
Yeah.
the depths, top to bottom. So in the ancient world, the sea was a scary thing. It's still a scary thing. I mean, I still don't know if I'd want to go out on a big boat out on the ocean. I'm a little bit of a chicken. So, but to the ancient mind, the sea was shorthand for the confusing, scary, deadly unknown. What's at the depths of the sea? No one knows it. Because a good way that really drove this concept home for me was, gosh, I can't remember who might have been Joel Beakey was talking about this. He said, imagine the ancient mariner. He had no way to bring light to the depths of the ocean. You can't bring a candle or a torch down into the water. They had no way to illuminate the depths of the ocean. There was no electric light. There was no battery light. There was nothing you could bring down to the depths. So part of, in biblical language, when we talk about the turbulent seas and tossed about, yes, they're talking about the actual ocean sometimes, but also those things that we don't know, those scary things that come out of the depths, very much was in the mind of the ancient author when he wrote both in biblical text and secular text of, at this time, of the ocean. And here in heaven, we have a sea of glass that is frozen. As you said, it is done. Pharaoh is entombed. The enemy has been put down. And now from heaven, we can see what was going on. The fire is there to represent the wrath of God that was poured out on Pharaoh, that was poured out on the beast, that was poured out on the enemy of God's children. And now our perspective from heaven is we see, we understand, we see it is a sea of glass. We see down to what God was doing. We get it. But God's not done with fire and smoke. God's still number one, even though we are glorified. We can't even get into the tabernacle because His glory, His presence just fills it, and we are blown back, and we, in a glorious, awesome way, are subservient and humbled by God's presence. His fire and His smoke still holds us back, and we're like, wow. We're still in heaven. We're still going to be wowed and blown away in a wonderful way, not in a way that's fearful, not in a way where we fear condemnation or judgment because we are saved, we are glorified, but God's still going to blow us away with His glory and His majesty. Isn't that awesome? I'm kind of going off on a tangent here, but it's good stuff. Yes. Yeah. Hmm. It also, this is what we were created to do. Not make bricks in Egypt. Not even to raise cattle in the wilderness. Not even to grow grapes in Israel. We were created to stand upon that sea of glass and be blown away by his glory and majesty and be driven to sing the song of Moses. So if you think a good day at the beach or playing that perfect guitar solo or just having the most amazing get together with your family and friends, you think that stuff is good? We were created for heavenly worship, for heavenly communion. We are created for the battle. Oh, yeah. Mm. It is.
I just wanted to read verse chapter 14. When you're reading chapter 14, I wasn't here last week, but this really struck me. Do not be afraid. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord, which He will accomplish for you today. And the Lord will fight for you, and you shall hold your peace. Holding your peace. That's a word we use now. But how do you hold your peace?
Yeah.
So I needed to hear that word today. I'm very anxious lately. So
Mm.
very stirred up in my soul. So you can pray for me. I need to hold my peace.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
thank God is on the throne. Thank God for the worship that brings us there. You know? But
Yeah.
I feel like I'm in the battle.
Aren't you glad that he said, hold your peace and not feel my peace, feel your peace? Because I'm better at doing than feeling. Hmm. Yeah.
Along the Lord, until our work is advantaged. We were under the altar, the book of Revelation, and the Lord returned that with an answer. He said, there are certain many of the elect that have not yet come in.
Mm.
So they were being comforted while they were with Him.
Mm.
But there was more to happen. So it's kind of like holding your peace. Telling them, just,
That's where I'll end the message.
Mm. Boy, this is good discussion. This is fun. You guys, I don't want you to get swellhead. You guys are a great class, by the way. And it's great interaction. So, all right, let's do the rest of church.